do you feel after a long project is over? Hi, this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments. Welcome back to my channel. Today I get to share with you the culmination of a very long project. And I'm excited to do that. We are going to do a flip through of album number 4 from Ireland. And I'm going to include some facts and figures for you. So let me get those ready. Okay, so now, you have to understand, and this may seem a little bit crazy to do. My dad was very much a numbers guy. Okay. So I decided that since our going to Ireland was a little bit of an homage to Dad, because when he passed away, my mom decided that she wanted to go to Ireland and she wanted to bring us all with her. So as a little bit of a nod of appreciation to Dad, I decided to do some counting because that's what he would do. He was one of those guys that always timed us whenever we spoke at church. And he would tell us when we were done how long we spoke for. Anyways, so 4 albums for Italy, 4 albums for Ireland, which included 284 pages, an average of 36 pages per album, with one of them having 41 pages. Let me see. Volume 2 had 41 pages. Volume 4 had 28 pages. Volume 1 and 3 had 36 and 37 pages, respectively, for a total of 284 pages. I printed, before I started this project, I printed a little over 2,000 photos because, as I explained when I started, I'm one of those people that has to look at my photos next to each other to determine which ones I liked. Seeing them on a computer screen and trying to select, I like that one better than that one, it just doesn't work for me. So I did the best I could and narrowed it down, and then I printed the rest and had to kind of compare the prints to decide which ones I wanted to use. Of those just a little over 2,000 photos that I printed, I used 1,670 of them. And just for fun, I also counted the peekaboo pockets because why not, right? So I used a total of 220 peekaboo pockets. 52 of those were 6 by 12, and the rest were all different other sizes, mostly 4 by 6, but a few other sizes thrown in there, and a few 4 by 6s that were modified to fit the digital photos that I used. Quite a few of those, actually. So there you go. That's how the numbers break down. And I thought it was really interesting that the album with the most photos in it had the least number of pages. And it was number 4, probably because I was so determined, as a friend of mine mentioned this evening. I was so determined to not have to do a volume 5. So anyway, let's go ahead and shift over, and we'll run through the flip through of volume 4, and you'll see why there are so many photos but so few pages. I did a lot, or several 6 by 12 peekaboo waterfalls in this album, and it helped me cut down on pages, but not necessarily on photos, obviously, because there were 468 photos in album number 4, which you're going to see in just a second, 456 in volume 3, 362 in volume 2, and 384 in volume 1. So you can see it was roughly roughly 50 to 80 more photos in volume 3 and 4. And I don't know if I assume that that's because I used more peekaboo pockets. Because I did use more peekaboo pockets. Anyway, let's check out my workspace and we'll do that flip through for you. Hope you enjoy it. All right, so this is volume 4 of my Ireland series. This is from a vacation that my family took in fall of 2023. And this is the last volume. So I'm super excited to share with you this album. It is a little bit larger than I would normally create an album, and I'll show you how many pages or how wide it is. It's really more about how wide it is than it is about how many pages are in it, and that's because I did do several what we call waterfall pages in order to accommodate all the photos that I needed to accommodate in this album. I didn't want to have to do a volume 5, so I was trying really hard to get them all into this album, and I did take a few of the pages that initially were going to be in this album and move them to volume 3. So volume 3 is a little thicker, probably the same size as this one, maybe slightly smaller. But anyway, that helped a lot to be able to move a few of the pages to volume 3. But so if you're confused and you remember where we started volume 4, that's why. Okay, so I made this using my CM circle cutter, and the Ireland title was made on my Cricut. The rest of all of the supplies except for the glitter paper on this are CM papers. Actually, I have to take that back. This paper right here is not a CM paper because I ran out of the one that I used on my other titles that match this. So I had to use something slightly different on this one. All right, so we've got Limerick. And a lot of these layouts are going to look familiar if you are familiar with the virtual crop, because I do a lot of the virtual crop sketches in my albums. That's what they're there for, right? So we've done a lot of virtual crop sketches in this album. This is the Treaty Stone, the Treaty of Limerick, and all the way around this stone are these wonderful brass markers that tell the story of the Treaty of Limerick. So of course we got photos of all of those. Very cool stuff. Goes all the way around this monument on the side of the River Shannon, right across the river from King John's Castle. All right, and then we entered County Clare and went and visited Bunratty Castle. And Bunratty Castle was super cool. It's actually way more than a castle. You can see on this map, it's a huge folk park. So that was really neat. We didn't see the whole folk park, so don't worry. The photos that are in here are actually just from the castle. And I didn't add any tabs to this waterfall, but I think I may go back and add tabs to all of these. And you may recall that this is probably the biggest waterfall I've ever done. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 8 peekaboo pockets to finish that waterfall. It does make it a little bit thicker, but it still works. So very cool stuff. Then we went and had lunch at a pub, and you can see the coolness of the pub and their team that they support. Really, really neat. This is my son. And I need to add tabs to these two also, these peekaboo pockets, so that we know how to open them up. So that was a really fun lunch. And then A Visit to Ireland's not complete without rainbows. And so this was our rainbow page. And then we headed to Lahinch and got to see many things along the way. Lahinch, if you're not a golf aficionado, and I am not a golf aficionado, Lahinch is one of the places in Great Britain where the course that they play is still pretty traditional, and I was really kind of surprised at it, at the rolling hillsness of the course. This is part of the course right here, and you'll see a few more pictures of that course as we go by or go through after the Cliffs of Moher. This is the Cliffs of Moher, and I did use the Copper Canyon 1 to do these layouts of the Cliffs of Moher. We arrived at sunset, which was pretty cool. Very nice time to be there. A beautiful, beautiful pictures of the water and the cliffs and the sun hitting the water. It was just amazing. So very, very cool. Oh, I forgot. We've got this one that folds out. Sorry, that makes it kind of hard for you to see on the video. We've got this one, which has, again, another fold out that's a little difficult to see because of this green being so close. We had so many beautiful pictures of the cliffs that you would, I know there's someone out there who's saying, wow, that's a lot of pictures of the same spot. Yes, it is a lot of pictures of the same spot. We had 9 people on this trip, and we had over 2,000 photos to choose from. So that's what brought us to 4 albums and so many pages of so many memories. But that's okay. And here we have more pictures of Lahinch and the golf course. And you see how it's just a ton of rolling hills of green. Very, very cool. We've got some more peekaboo pockets. My husband decided to go for a run that morning on the coast. So there's photos of him. This was our breakfast area and what we were eating for breakfast. Also a good thing to record if you go on a trip. This was the next morning, and we all went to the Doolin Ferry. So same morning as this, day 9. We went to Doolin, which was a nearby town, a little bit further up the coast, and we got on this ferry, and we rode the ferry back over to see the Cliffs of Moher from the ocean, which was a totally different experience. So, and you see these funny glasses. These were my daughter Emily's glasses that we got for her to try to help her combat her motion sickness. And I think they worked pretty well. She felt a little dorky, but she seemed to think they helped, so that was good. Our tour guide, Tony, had never seen anything quite like them, so he had to try them on, of course. There's my girls. And here is our view of the coast. So very different view of those cliffs than we had in when we were looking down on them versus looking over at them. So the Cliffs of Moher from the sea, a coastal walk. So while we were on the ocean enjoying those views, my sister and my cousin went to Doolin and walked along the cliffs on the edge of that. This is my cousin. And so they got some gorgeous photos of that area. So we had to include those too. Then we went to visit the Burren Perfumery. I think this is one of my favorite waterfalls, just because I added some smaller peekaboos to the waterfall pages. This is something you can pull out, and actually talks about their products that they make there. We went on a tour, and they showed us how they make everything, how they package it, and that was lovely. My sister and a couple of my daughters and my cousin went and toured their herb garden, which was also lovely. My sister really loves to grow herbs, and so that was a fun thing for them to do. And then we have another peekaboo pocket with one of the products that we bought, and some more. So, and a receipt. So just some fun things to add in. And you can see why this album is so thick, right? Because of all of the peekaboo waterfalls. This is our chocolate page from visiting the chocolate factory. This was a super fun place to go, the Hazel Mountain Chocolate Factory. We got to, they were not closed, but they were not making chocolate when we got there, but they make these super cute chocolate sheep. And we, of course, left with many, many things to sample as we continued on our journey. We spent the night in Galway at the Park House Hotel, and we walked a couple blocks further into Galway and had dinner at this wonderful pub. And I did this layout not too long ago, so you may be familiar with it, but I just loved these pictures that they had on the wall of all of these sort of candid shots of different patrons and different people in the community. It was just very striking piece that they had added. And this was just on one of the store covers as we were walking over, and Emily thought it would be really cute to pose like those were her wings. So, her butterfly wings. There's the menu. It was called McGettigan's, and the food was fantastic. And then, of course, we had to go visit Murphy's Ice Cream again because there was one there in Galway, so we could go and taste it. Next day was the 10th day of our trip, and we went to Cong. Cong is the city where The Quiet Man was filmed, and so we got to see many of the sites where The Quiet Man was filmed, as well as a museum and gift shop that they had made, and several of the props and things like that. This wasn't the actual cottage. This was a remade cottage. They had to tear down the original a few years back, but that's okay. It worked for us. It was every bit as fun for us. And while we were there, several of us went to the Cong Wood and Abbey, and so we took many, many more pictures of the Abbey. And this is the first time that I've ever put together peekaboo pockets that were not the same size. So it kind of was an interesting experiment to see how it would look by putting those together. And then figuring out where to add the tabs so that it would make sense. It's interesting. And then in the wood, they discovered all of these cute ducks and the old Fisher house. This is where the monks that tended the abbey would go fishing in the river. And this is more of Cong. Cong actually is part of two different counties. So it's in Galway, County Galway, and County Mayo. And so there is a dividing line, and that's where we were all congregating right here on this bridge, was at that dividing line between County Galway and County Mayo. And everybody wanted their picture to be taken in front of that. There is a fish hatchery there, and the fish actually make their way all the way over to Greenland and Canada, which is cool. And so we got that, and my son posed with this walking stick, and for some reason he felt like it needed to be held like a baseball. This says the seasons of Ireland: spring, summer, autumn, and winter, and there's rain during every single one. And they are not wrong. Although we didn't have very much rain while we were there. We did get a little bit, but not too much. All right. So then we went from there to this beautiful fjord, and we had lunch at this cute little restaurant near the edge of the fjord called the Misunderstood Heron. And we had so much fun there. There was a cute dog, a couple of cute dogs. We had lunch and visited more with Tony and just enjoyed the beauty that surrounded us there. It was just lovely. And you can see this picture right here. I don't know if I took it or if someone else in our group took this photo, but for me, that photo just looks like it belongs on my wall. I feel like I should blow it up and stick it on a wall somewhere. Just so pretty and peaceful. Then from there we went around the other edge of the fjord to the Kalari sheep farm, and we learned about sheepdog training. And this sweet dog right here was being trained by his master. And that was a fascinating thing. We were kind of on the side of a hill, not kind of, we were definitely on the side of a hill. We were at the top and looking almost straight down to the edge of the water. And that sweet dog, he ran everywhere just with what appeared to be effortless energy after all of these black-faced sheep. And the red spots are there on purpose because these sheep are not necessarily fenced, and so by adding a little bit of dye to their fur that's not permanent, they are able to identify very quickly which sheep belong to them as opposed to their neighbor. And so you'll notice that this sheep right here has a blue spot on him, but all of these have red. This was along the side of the road as we were driving away from the sheep farm, and obviously belonged to somebody else. But here is the dog doing his job and corralling those sheep and bringing them back to where they needed to be. It was super fun, very windy, as you can see. All of our hair is just blowing like crazy, but really, really a fascinating experience to hear him give those very whispered commands. This is another area as we were driving through that just looked very different from a lot of the other scenery we had seen that up to that point. This is an example of heather. I've heard of heather, Highland heather, many, many times, but never really actually seen it to identify it. So I included that just so we would remember what that looked like. And then here we are on the bus again, continuing on our journey. The last stop on our last tour day was the Pierce's Cultural Center cottage, and this was fascinating. They had a cottage set up very traditionally, much like that set that had been created for the movie that we enjoyed, and people who visit are able to go and explore the cottage, and you're also able to investigate some artist renderings and various other things. So we've got a painting and the artist right up, and then we got back into our bus. And then this is our journey back to Dublin, because we were all the way on the west coast of Ireland in Galway, and we needed to be in Dublin to catch our flight. So we had to be on the bus by 4 a.m., and we were at the airport at 7. Here's the sign that says the airport. So very convenient way to remember. And we'll watch the sun come up as we were driving in. Got on this was our farewell picture with Tony, which was lovely. He was so fantastic during this whole trip. We just really enjoyed spending time with him. And then we went and waited for our flight, which left, I believe it left at 11. That's what I have noted here, and I'm pretty sure that's right. 11 a.m. Ireland time. And then we flew in and arrived the next day. The next morning, we flew to Chicago, and then we flew on to Salt Lake City, and we arrived very, very early the next morning, something like 5:30 or 6 in the morning. So it was a really long 24 hours. Actually, it's probably more like 27 hours. I think I noted here 23, but that would be actual travel time. Really, really long trip, but we enjoyed it so, so immensely. And I am so happy that you have been able to come along for the journey. You can see how thick that album is. And yeah, it's just kind of going to be a lot to handle, but I think it'll be okay. Thanks so much. I hope you have a great day. Enjoy.